The Lifestyle Show, presented by
Giles Brown.
No Longer That Girl is a book that retraces the scars of the past and the present. It is a new book by Stephanie Maley. I'm delighted to say that Stephanie is here to tell us about her experiences in her own words. Stephanie, good afternoon from us. Good morning to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, I wrote this book. It took about 7 years. And the Me Too movement, when it came out in 2017, made a big difference in my life. I heard other people talking about their own sexual abuses, and, you know, shame is a silencer, and I hadn't shared it with anyone.
Because one of the things sorry for talking over you. Excuse me. One of the things that came out, just flicking through briefly the notes that I made, was the fact that you kind of kept this until the pandemic came along and we were all sort of locked down, and it gave you time to think. And that, was it a case of a lot of the stuff that you had suddenly came to the future, came to the present because you had the time to think about that you hadn't had before?
Exactly. That is so true. So again, the Me Too movement in 2017 started breaking open the spaces in my heart that I had kept closed. I had told my husband, he's the only one I told about my past experiences. I've been groomed by 2 men and sexual abuse. And so I wrote an autobiography for myself initially, and knew that I just wanted to get everything down, finally just get it out. And then when the pandemic hit, I totally panicked. I went into I was a pediatric nurse, and in my past, and my husband's a pediatrician in a rural environment, and I knew how viruses spread, and I knew that we didn't know much about it. And I had a healthcare worker, in my home, and so that shut me down initially. And then once I felt safe again in my own home, with my husband putting his clothes in the dryer, taking a shower, wearing a mask, staying 6 feet away, then I had the time to really write the story in scenes and to create a memoir instead of just telling, which I had done for my autobiography. And going through those scenes again gave me another level of healing. It was pretty transformative.
Because when you write something down, if you longhand on computer, rather than just saying, this is what happened to me, this is the awful thing that happened to me, it wasn't my fault, it was nothing to do with me, I didn't deserve this, and your husband, obviously a great man for understanding this situation. But when you write it down with a pencil, a pen, whatever, it gives it another, because words are gone. Words are gone in seconds. But when you write something down, you commit that to paper and you go back to it and you look at it again. And that opens yet another door to that experience, and it sets off perhaps a chain reaction of memories to that. And you look back and you think, right.
Exactly. And it was something that, as I was going through the writing process, I was going back to those scenes, going back to that time, going back to that little girl inside of me who never expressed how she felt at the time. So it was really interesting. It was an interesting process where I'm actually able to tell that little girl, you can experience what you felt now. You can, like you really felt, instead of the polite, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings little girl who just went along, to now I'm an adult and I've done a lot of work, and I can tell you that you're safe, because she's still in there. But now she knows she's safe. And I just didn't expect that extra layer of healing that I got from that experience of writing it down.
When you say you can tell that little girl, because a lot of people don't do what you've, thankfully a lot of people haven't been through what you've been through, but a lot of people don't do what you've done and say, that was a child, then there was a teenager, then there was a young woman, and now we are in the whatever we are of our ages now. But they think it's a continuous timeline, and you have to look at those as separate people. They're still your same people, but almost in the way that certain creatures shed their skins after 7 years and whatever. So you can look back and almost instruct that younger self, which is, for those who don't sort of get the concept, it must sound a very sort of hippy-dippy sort of thing we're saying, but Stephanie, it is vital, isn't it, that the fact that you can make an amend, you can talk to that person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if you're familiar with the word triggered, that is what that is. It takes you back to a time that really was upsetting, that might be similar to what you just experienced, but it's a trigger. And so that might make more sense to people. It's like, why did that upset me? Oh, I remember I was made fun of when I was in school or whatever, and my boss just kind of called me out. It reminded me of the teacher who called me out. So it's that kind of, it's there, it's in there. And when you reflect back on those times, if you really do the work and get into that experience, you definitely feel what you felt at that time. So it was very tough writing. I mean, it's hard, again, because now you're putting it on paper. But the beauty of putting it on paper, I encourage people, if you've had similar experiences, because let me tell you, if there's a group of 3 or 4 of us together, there's going to be someone in that group who's been sexually abused. It is that common. So if you don't have to write a book, but just write it and riff it from that time, just for your eyes only, if you want. But that is a powerful exercise, and you get to say all the things you wanted to say, and you probably didn't at the time if you didn't have your voice.
The thing is, you mentioned the Me Too movement. You've mentioned the work that people now do, and people go, oh, Gen Z and whatever gen we're in, at the Alpha, whatever. Oh, they're too much. They're too empathetic. But thank goodness that they are, because this is a subject we're now talking about. And you and I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and this was not talked about. We didn't, and I'm from the UK. You're in Georgia, but we all supposed to have the Brady. We were all living the Waltons. You're supposed to be living the Waltons down there, and I'm supposed to be living the Brady Bunch and whatever. And every family is perfect. And so, as a little, as a child, you can't work out what's happening. You haven't bought some, but you can't tell anybody, and you'll just think you're weird and different, and somehow you've deserved this.
Exactly. I mean, that is spot on. I felt different. I always wanted to think, is this normal? Even the behavior of one of my groomers, he was an Episcopal seminarian, and everybody thought he was great, and I'm like 14, and he's, kissing me in private and holding my hands and touching me. And I'm like, but everybody thinks he's wonderful. What's wrong with me? Why does this keep happening? What is it that I do? And you feel like you're by yourself, but actually you're not, because like I said, it is a very rampant all over the world. It is prominent that people are sexually abused, and not just women. No. Men just don't share it. They generally are less likely, to discuss that for whatever reason. But it happens to both sexes. And
this is the insidious thing, isn't it? It's not, 9 times out of 10, it's not the person who other adults might think he's a little bit interesting. I'm using my language very carefully, Stephanie, that they don't think, oh, well, obviously he was going to be like that. Because 9 times that's just some guy who's different. But it's always the popular guy. It's always the person in a position of trust. It's always, perversely. And so, therefore, it puts an even greater pressure on to sort of, because if you say, well, actually, it's so and so, if you'd had the courage then that you didn't know you could do that, they would go, oh, don't be stupid, child, you're making it up, right? Because he's just the most popular guy around.
That's it. I mean, exactly, and that is, people will think it's like strangers off the street, but typically it's someone and a lot of times it's family members. And again, as if I had said something, would anybody have believed me? It's exactly what you just said, because, everybody thinks he's a great guy. And if I didn't, like, he wanted me to be a part of his graduation, his ordination, and flew me to Mississippi. And I went because I knew if I didn't, it would seem strange and would cause discussions. Like, everybody knows he loves you and y'all are so close. And of course you're going to go. So I went just because I didn't, it would be odd if I didn't.
And also, I suppose the thing is, because maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this time they won't try this. Maybe this time it won't happen. And that's the old definition of madness, isn't it? Doing the same thing and hoping for a different outcome.
Yes, exactly. And that did finally happened at the ordination or after the ordination, he didn't try anything. And I was thinking, okay, you now will be living in Mississippi. I will be in Tennessee, and all will be well. And, for the most part it was, but the very strange thing is when I got married, and I'm an Episcopalian, I was close to a lot of priests who were appropriate and had boundaries, and, I didn't have any issue with. But he was one of the ones who married us. And that is a common thing as well. It is like that authority, and it would be very odd if he weren't there.
Wow. It's like, that's all I can say to that one. Gosh.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a strange, warped scenario.
And yet you then go on and you have, if such a things exist, a normal life. You, the wonderful guy, the whole thing, everything is, you've kept it, you've sort of kept it in that little area back there where we've all got that key, that very large key that we keep down. And then again, it pops up. So we put it back down again. And then you've talked about this, but I like, and then you write it down during the thing of which we do not speak anymore.
Right.
But the thing is, it's the way that you talk about the writing as being a safe space, and that interests me because as somebody who's done something rather similar to what you've done in terms of writing down behaviors and all that, you don't do it in what, because people think, okay, I'm going to write down, I'm going to do my amends and I'm going to write down what this and the other, and they think you do it in an afternoon and that's it, done, dusted, that's it, off we go, happy life from here. It's not like that. It takes months and years to get it down properly, Stephanie.
I agree. I think, I had started as a young child, I started noticing things that I didn't want to do myself. My mother got remarried. My birth father left when I was 3 months old. And then a stepfather came in, and all of a sudden she is like putting his clothes out, drawing his bath water and things like that. And I'm like 8 or 9 going, what is going on? I'm never going to do that. So even at a very young age, I stayed curious, and how could I do things differently? So it's been for me a very long process. At 16, I went to a parenting class being offered at our church, and people kind of joked about it, like, why are you here? Do you have a child in the closet? And I'm like, no, I just want to learn about parenting, And so I kind of was on a quest at an early age, and then talk therapy for a long time. So yes, it's not an overnight thing, but it's a great place to start. Yeah.
But also, it triggers, because things that you do, but you may not be aware of. So somebody might say something in passing. I have a friend who I found out subconsciously was abused, and there was a nickname that they used, and it turns out the abuser used the nickname, and I didn't know it, and she was like, "Don't ever use that name." Because, and so something that could be a phrase or a soft drink or a TV program they are the most subtly insidious things. And then you have no control over that situation.
Right. Especially when you think that you've put it in your past or you've compartmentalized it. It will come back out if you don't address it. It will come out. Like for me, especially in COVID, I was like, I'm a nurse. I know how this works. The Italian people are telling us that we are going to have a lot of deaths in the next couple of weeks. My husband's exposed. And then it just like all those past vulnerabilities just came roaring. I'm not safe. I'm not safe where it's always been safe. I'm now not safe there, which is my home and with my husband.
But you mentioned that you were also right that writing was a safe space. Having something to keep the demons, and they are horrendous demons, at bay. You have your writing, you have the work that you're doing there, and that is that's being proactive and not letting them have control or taking the power, if you like, from those thoughts.
Exactly. So I had kept journals. I had actually written for a long time. I had like 30 to 40 books that I just, for myself, for my eyes only, and not necessarily about those experiences. It was just how life was hard. And why do these things keep happening? It's like the shoe drops. I have some happiness and then something else happens. And so it wasn't necessarily about what started it or was at the roots, but it was just life experiences.
And that is because it's the self-destruct, even though you don't know you're doing it yourself, and you're not in the self-worth, and off we go on the same. And again, it's breaking the circle. I've got to ask the question: How was your husband during this? Because obviously, this is a traumatic period because we're going through the pandemic, and you're doing this severe work on yourself. And for those outside, and I know he's, obviously an amazing guy, but it's a journey that you take alone, and you go to places that you don't want to go to. So it's not a book that you close it. You're not writing, My Little Pony Volume 3. It's not, you don't shut the laptop down and then go, hello, darling. I mean, this stuff stays with you.
It does. And he's been incredibly supportive. He's listened to parts, a lot of it. But when I had my first, it's called an advanced reading copy, an ARC, which is just before the real book, he said he wanted to be a reader and he couldn't. He only got so far. I mean, he knows the stories, but again, when you write a memoir, you're creating scenes. I'm trying to initiate your imagination and I'm trying to create it so that you're sitting there watching a movie, right? And so it can be very specific and difficult. And so my children, I said, you don't want to read it. They're boys. I was like, you don't want to read it. It's not going to be an easy read. And so my husband did stop, but I had my book launch this past week. And I asked him to speak about a particular organization that he's involved with that deals with children who've been sexually abused. And he was just starting to say how proud he was of me, and he broke down crying. So it was very sweet, but it's very hard. It is hard on the spouse, and to hear what I've been through. And I've had friends say, I don't know if I can take hearing people be mean, do this to you.
But this is the thing, because it's the surface, and people can carry this on for years and years and years, and then it breaks. And if it does break and you don't address it, then the flood that comes out of there, Stephanie, it can be irreparable damage to all your friends, all your family. And I really applaud you for what you've done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It is, it's been a hard journey. When people the other night at my book launch asked, so what's next? Well, I can tell you won't be a memoir. It's going to be fiction.
Yeah.
Heck, who knows? It could be, just whatever.
It's come out. You've got the discipline now to be a writer, to sit and actually, put out 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 words.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I do have that discipline, and I've been kind of blessed with that. And I think sports did that for me. I played a lot of sports and growing up, which was a great place for me to get out anger that I didn't understand, but I had anger just below the surface. And so, especially like you say, growing up the 60s and 70s and being a girl in the South playing fast pitch softball is just, but it is really what was a saving grace for me all through I played squash, basketball, volleyball, fast pitch, pickleball. And it helped me a socially acceptable way to get out that anger.
And but you still did the work.
I didn't understand.
Yeah, exactly. No, I get that completely. I absolutely get that completely. If there's somebody out there listening to this and they've been touched and it's something pricked, something's, the discomfort's come in, what would you say for them to do, Stephanie? I mean, I know every case is different. It's not a one case fits all. That's the horrendous thing about all these traumas. But
exactly. Well, what I've done in my book is talk about my journey and what it took for me to get to where I am today. But what I would definitely encourage someone, if and it doesn't have to be. I just want to say this. I've had a friend tell me about this Episcopal seminarian who groomed me. She had an experience where he kissed her and held on her cheek she's held on that and kept an eye on where he's lived all these years. That is molestation. You might think, but he had authority. He was in that position, and he was not invited to do anything like that. So it doesn't have to be you were raped every day by your father. But whatever, like you say, that kind of, I encourage you to write, and I encourage you to seek some professional help, for someone to listen to you and help guide you.
You see, the thing is, Stephanie, I know it's going to sound facile, but, you like your sport, you like your women's sport. Spain women's football team won the World Cup, and the main guy from the Spanish Football Federation unwantedly kissed one of the players on the lips. This was international news. And it became this huge thing. I mean, he can't hang on. And a lot of people saying, it's just a kiss. And it's like, no, this is just, and all that macho culture came out of Spain, like, and it's like, no, you we're not being well, but you have no idea what these people go through. And I'm not saying that, but that could have been a trigger. It gave a signal for everybody else from that level downwards that it's okay to kiss a woman on the lips without her consent. And consent is absolutely that we should be ramming home to our sons, to our brothers, to whatever about this.
Absolutely, because that was not consensual and that made things feel really unsafe for that person. And that's all it takes. Again, it doesn't have to be, you don't need to compare, apples to apples. It's whatever made you uncomfortable and was inappropriate and was not consensual is not okay, and it's wrong.
The book is called No Longer That Girl. It's by Stephanie Maley. Listeners, you can go to our virtual bookstore, click on the photograph, the front cover, and the book will be sent to you via a distribution service. Are you on social media? Is there a website? I mean, do you have a profile?
Yeah. Yes. Thanks for asking. I do have a website, and it's stephmaley.com. www.
Yeah.
And I'm on Facebook with Steph's Writings. And I'm on Instagram with Steph's Writings.
Well, wonderful. The book is called No Longer That Girl. It's by Steph Maley, and lots of great stuff coming on the social medias as well for that. Stephanie, I wasn't supposed to do this interview, but honestly, thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you so much, too.